You know what? I don't need to do any spiel. Welcome, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Let's just start reading, shall we? Let's just do that.
Can you switch over so everybody can see me cuddling with her?
Yeah, sure. Here, Dex jumped up and hung out with Mark. Alrighty, let's just start reading. Let's just do it. Let's just jump in.
Do it.
Bro, you can't stop proper, and I love it. I know there's always one thing. There's always one thing. Oh, my pen went away. My pen flew away. We got to make sure Mark's all caught up. You did.
I caught up.
He watched it today.
Yep.
He's all caught up. He's all good to go. We are reading Harry Potter for an hour. I've never read it before. Don't spoil it in the chat. Let's just get started, shall we? Chapter 21. The Eye of the Snake. What's actually the last thing that happened? I completely forgot. The last thing. Oh yeah, they hung with Hagrid, and Hagrid cut them up about the giant wars and the travels, his sexy travels to the to the Valley of the Giants. Hey, okay, I want to pronounce your name right. Lizkeisha? Is it Lizkeisha? Is that how you pronounce the name? But anyways, welcome. Your first live. Very happy to have you here. Welcome to this fun and small community that we have here. Okay, chapter 21. The Eye of the Snake. Hermione plowed... Oh, it's nighttime, right? So here we go. Nighttime. Hermione plowed her way back to Hagrid's cabin through 2 feet of snow on Sunday morning. I was wrong. Harry and Ron wanted to go with her. But their mountain of homework had reached an alarming height again. So they remained grudgingly in the common room, trying to ignore the gleeful shouts drifting up from the grounds outside, where students were enjoying themselves skating on the frozen lake, tobogganing, and worst of all, bewitching snowballs to zoom up to Gryffindor Tower and rap hard on the windows. Okay, I guess that's how you do pronounce your name. Cool. Oi! Bellowed Ron, finally losing patience and sticking his head out of the window. I am a prefect, and if one more snowball hits this window, ouch! He withdrew his head sharply, his face covered in snow. That Ron.
Ron.
It's Fred and George, he said bitterly, slamming the window behind him. Gits? Hermione returned from Hagrid's just before lunch, shivering slightly, her robes damp to the knees. So? Said Ron, looking up when she entered. Got all his lessons planned for him? Well, I tried, she said dully, sinking into a chair beside Harry. She pulled at her wand and gave it a complicated little wave so that hot air streamed out of the tip. She then pointed this at her robes, which began to stream as they dried out. He wasn't even there when I arrived. I was knocking for at least half an hour, and then he came stumping out of the forest. Harry groaned. The Forbidden Forest was teeming with the kind of creatures most likely to get Hagrid the sack. What's he keeping in there? Did he say? He asked. Remember when Fred and George bewitched snowballs to hit Quirrell on the back of the head, pelting Voldemort in the face? Did that happen? I can't even remember. Did that happen? That is so funny. Voldemort's on the cover's like, I must not reveal myself. Ow, 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 ow. No, said Hermione miserably. He says he wants them to be a surprise. I tried to explain about Umbridge, but he just doesn't get it. He kept saying nobody in their right mind would rather study Gnarls than chimeras. Chimeras.
Chimeras.
Chimeras? What is that?
I can't remember.
But you know the pronunciation.
I know the pronunciation. It's some kind of mythical creature.
It's called dog, but... rather study Gnarls than chimeras. Oh, I don't think he's got a chimera, she added to the appalled look on Harry and Ron's faces. But that's not for lack of trying. From what he said about how hard it is to get eggs, I don't know how many times I told him he'd be better off following Grubbly Plank's plan. I honestly don't think he listened to half of what I said. He's in a bit of a funny mood, you know. He still won't say how he got all those injuries. Hagrid's reappearance at the staff table at breakfast next day was not greeted by enthusiasm from all students. Some, like Fred, George, and Lee, roared with delight and sprinted up the aisle between the Gryffindor and Hufflepuff tables to wring Hagrid's enormous hand. Others, like Parvati and Lavender, exchanged gloomy looks and shook their heads. Harry knew that many of them preferred Professor Grubbly-Plank's lessons, and the worst of it was that a very small, unbiased part of him knew that had good reason. Grubbly-Plank's idea of an interesting class was not one where he was a risk that somebody might have their head ripped off, where there was a risk. A fire-breathing female monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail, a blend of different peoples and animals. Are we talking about Mark? Oh, chimeras. We're talking about chimeras. It was with a certain amount of apprehension that Harry, Ron, and Hermione headed down to Hagrid's on Tuesday, heavily muffled against the cold. Harry was worried, not only about Hagrid, what Hagrid might have decided to teach them, but also about how the rest of the class, particularly Malfoy and his cronies, would behave if Umbridge was watching them. However, the High Inquisitor was nowhere to be seen as they struggled through the snow towards Hagrid, who stood waiting for them on the edge of the forest. Yeah, hello, Barbara. He did not present a reassuring sight. The bruises that had been purple on Saturday night were now tinged with green and yellow, and some of his cuts still seemed to be bleeding. Oh my gosh, get some medical help.
Yeah.
Harry could not understand this. Had Hagrid perhaps been attacked by some creature whose venom prevented the wounds it inflicted from healing? As though to complete the ominous picture, Hagrid was carrying what looked like half a dead cow over his shoulder. Crow, just half of a dead crow. We're working in here today, Hagrid called happily to the approaching student, jerking his head back at the dark trees behind him. Bit more sheltered. Anyway, they prefer the dark. What prefers the dark? Harry heard Malfoy say sharply to Crabbe and Goyelle, a trace of panic in his voice. What did he say prefers the dark? Did you hear? Harry remembered the only other occasion on which Malfoy had entered the forest before now. He had not been very brave then either. He smiled to himself. After the Quidditch match, anything that caused Malfoy discomfort was all right with him. Ready, said Hagrid cheerfully, looking around at the class. Right, well, I've been saving a trip into the forest for your 5th year. Thought we'd go and see these creatures in their natural habitat. Now, what we're studying today is pretty rare. I reckon I'm probably the only person in Britain who's managed to train them. And you're sure they're trained, are you? Said Malfoy, the panic in his voice even more pronounced. Oh, he's panicky, okay. Even more pronounced. Only it wouldn't be the first time you've brought wild stuff to class, would it? The Slytherins murmured agreement. Sorry. I'm dying! The Slytherins murmured agreement, and a few Gryffindors looked as though they thought Malfoy had a fair point, too. Course they're trained, said Hagrid, scowling and hoisting the dead cow a little higher on his shoulder. So, what happened to your face, then? Demanded Malfoy. Mind your own business, said Hagrid angrily. Now, if you've finished asking stupid questions, follow me. He turned and strode straight into the forest. Nobody seemed much disposed to follow. Harry glanced at Ron and Hermione, who sighed but nodded, and the three of them set off after Hagrid, leading the rest of the class. John's got the Rona. Yeah, who knows? Nobody really knows until he got it, right? Anybody else keep getting buffering issues, or is it just me? Oh, let me know if you do. If other people also get that. They walked for 10 minutes until they reached a place where the trees stood so closely together that it was as dark as twilight, and there was no snow at all on the ground. I am 2. Fine for me. Okay, for 2 of you. With a grunt, Hagrid deposited his half a cow on the ground, stepped back and turned his face to class, most of whom were creeping from tree to tree towards them, peering around nervously, as though expecting to be set upon at any moment.
Gather round, Hagrid encouraged. Now, they'll be attracted by the smell of the meat, but I'm going to give it to them. I'm going to give them a call anyway, because they'll like to know it's me.
He turned, shook his shaggy head to get the hair out of his face, and gave an odd, shrieking cry that echoed through the dark trees. Like the call of some monstrous bird. Oh, okay, that's not a bird. How would Hagrid scream like a bird? Because I would go, caw! But Hagrid would go, caw! Caw! Something like that. Nobody laughed. Most of them looked too scared to make a sound. Hagrid gave a shrieking cry again. Caw! A minute passed in which the class continued to peer nervously over their shoulders and around trees for a first glimpse of whatever it was that was coming. And then, as Hagrid shook his hair back for a 3rd time and expanded his enormous chest, Harry nudged Ron and pointed into the black space between 2 gnarled yew trees. A pair of blank, white, shining eyes were growing larger through the gloom, and a moment later, the dragonish face, neck, and the skeletal body of a great black winged horse emerged from the darkness. It surveyed the class for a few seconds, swishing its long black tail, then bowed its head and began to tear flesh from the dead cow with its pointed fangs. Yikes! Yikes! A great wave of relief broke over Harry. Here at last was proof that he had not imagined these creatures, that they were real. Hagrid knew about them too. He looked eagerly at Ron, but Ron was still staring into the trees, and after a few seconds he whispered, "Why doesn't Hagrid call again?" Most of the class, the rest of the class were wearing expressions as confused and nervously expectant as Ron's, and were still gazing everywhere but at the horse standing feet from them. There were only 2 other people who seemed to be able to see them. A stringy Slytherin boy standing just behind Goyelle was watching the horse eating with an expression of great distaste on his face. The horse reared around, bit the boy's head off. Everybody clapped. Yes. Was watching the horse eating with an expression of great distaste on his face, and Neville, whose eyes were following the swishing progress of the long black tail.
Oh, and here comes another one,
said Hagrid proudly, as a second black horse appeared out of the dark trees, folded its leathery wings closer to its body, and dipped its head to gorge on the meat.
Now, put your hands up. Who can see 'em?
Immensely pleased to feel that he was at last going to understand the mystery of these horses, Harry raised his hand. Hagrid nodded at him. Oh, okay. Excited to find out this mystery. Maybe Umbridge is one of the horses. This is like a pink horse that comes in.
Is that a premonition?
No. Who's saying this? He said seriously. What? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I knew you'd be able to, Harry,
He said seriously.
and you too, Neville, eh? And
Excuse me, said Malfoy in a sneering voice, but what exactly are we supposed to be seeing? For an answer, Hagrid pointed at the cow's carcass on the ground. The whole class stared at it for a few seconds. Then several people gasped and Parvati squealed. Harry understood why. Bits of flesh stripping themselves away from the bones and vanishing into thin air had to look very odd indeed. So Neville can see him.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Why, of course.
Well, do you remember what Luna said about the reason why people can see them?
I forget, actually.
Oh, well, you're free.
Your permission was half correct, John. Umbridge is a pink horse. Hey, Lois! I didn't say that was a premonition. She's writing down Umbridge is a pink horse. That was a joke. That was a joke. What's doing it? Parvati demanded in a terrified voice, retreating behind the nearest tree. What's eating it? What's doing it? Parvati, sorry.
Thestrals,
Said Hagrid proudly, and Hermione gave a soft, oh, of comprehension at Harry's shoulder.
Hogwarts has got a whole herd of them in here. Now, who knows?
But they're really, really unlucky, interrupted Parvati, looking alarmed. They're supposed to bring all sorts of horrible misfortune on people who see them. Professor Trelawney told me once.
No, said Hagrid, chuckling. That's just superstition, that is. They aren't unlucky. They're dead clever and useful. Of course, this lot don't get a lot of work. It's mainly just pulling the school carriages, unless Dumbledore's taken a long journey and don't want to apparate. And here's another couple. Look.
2 more horses came quietly out of the trees, one of them passing very close to Parvati, who shivered and pressed herself closer to the tree, saying, I think I felt something! I think it's near me! No, you're allowed to sass me. Of course you're allowed to sass me. Lois.
Don't worry, it won't hurt you, said Hagrid patiently. Right now, who can tell me why some of us can see him and some can't?
Hermione raised her hand.
Go on then,
said Hagrid, beaming at her. The only people who can see Thestrals, he said, are people who have seen death.
That's exactly right, said Hagrid solemnly. 10 points to Gryffindor. Now, Thestrals.
Boo!
Professor Umbridge had arrived. She was standing a few feet away from Harry, wearing her green hat and cloak again, her clipboard at the ready. Hagrid, who had never heard Umbridge's fake cough before, was gazing in some concern at the closest Thestral, evidently under under the impression that it had made the sound. Yeah. What's this horse?
Oh, hello,
Hagrid said, smiling, having located the source of the noise.
You received the note I sent to your cabin this morning?
Said Umbridge in the same loud, slow voice. Okay, she had used with him earlier. Okay, she speaks differently to him. As though she were addressing somebody both foreign and very slow.
Telling you that I would be inspecting your lesson.
Oh, yeah,
Said Hagrid brightly.
yeah,
Said Hagrid brightly.
glad you found the place, all right. Well, as you can see, or I don't know, can you? We're doing Thestrals today.
I'm sorry.
Said Professor Umbridge loudly, cupping her hand around her ear and frowning.
What did you say?
Hagrid looked a little confused.
Thestrals,
He said loudly.
big, winged horses, you know.
He flapped his gigantic wings hopefully. Professor Umbridge raised her eyebrows at him and muttered as she made a note on her clipboard.
Has to resort to crude sign language.
Well, anyway,
Said Hagrid, turning back to the class and looking slightly flustered.
what was I saying?
Appears to have poor short-term memory.
Muttered Umbridge.
Him.
Oh, yeah. Loudly enough for everyone to hear, Draco Malfoy looked as though Christmas had come a month early. Hermione, on the other hand, had turned scarlet with suppressed rage. What's going on? Oh, weird.
Oh, yeah,
Said Hagrid, throwing an uneasy glance at Umbridge's clipboard, but plowing on valiantly.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you how come we got the herd. Yeah, so we started off with a male and 5 females. This one,
He patted the first horse to have appeared.
Namo Tenebrous, he's my special favorite. First one born here in the forest.
Are you aware
Umbridge said loudly, interrupting him.
that the Ministry of Magic has classified Thestrals as dangerous?
Of course it has. I hate Umbridge so much. Can we just kill her, please? Hagrid can just call some creature in the forest. That's really important, nobody.
Who cares?
I know. Harry's heart sank like a stone, but Hagrid merely chuckled.
Thestrals aren't dangerous. Oh, all right. They might take a bite out of you if you really annoy them.
Shows signs of pleasure at idea of violence.
Muttered Umbridge, scribbling on her clipboard again.
What? No! Come on!
Said Hagrid, looking a bit anxious now.
I mean, a dog will bite you if you bait it, won't it? But Thestrals have just got a bad reputation because of the death thing. People used to think they were the bad omens, didn't they? Just didn't understand, did they?
Umbridge did not answer. She finished writing her last note, then looked up at Hagrid and said again very loudly and slowly,
Please continue teaching as usual. I'm going to walk.
She mimed walking. Malfoy and Pansy Parkinson were having silent fits of laughter.
Among the students,
She pointed around at the individual members of the class.
and ask them questions.
She pointed at her mouth to indicate talking. She's the worst. Hagrid stared at her, clearly a complete loss to understand why she was acting as though he didn't understand normal English. Hermione had tears of fury in her eyes now.
You hag! You evil hag!
She whispered as Umbridge walked towards Pansy Parkinson.
I know what you're doing, you awful, twisted, vicious...
Anyway,
said Hagrid, clearly struggling to regain the flow of his lesson.
so, Thestrals, yeah. Well, there's a load of good stuff about them.
Do you find,
Said Professor Umbridge in a ringing voice to Pansy Parkinson,
that you are able to understand Professor Hagrid when he talks?
just like Hermione, Pansy had tears in her eyes, but these were tears of laughter, indeed. Her answer was almost incoherent because she was trying to suppress her giggles.
No.
But she's trying to suppress it, right?
Yeah.
No, because well, it sounds like grunting a lot of the time.
Oh man. It's worse because she spoke to him fine the other day. Yeah. Umbridge scribbled on her clipboard. The few unbruised bits of Hagrid's face flushed, but he tried to act as though he had not heard Pansy's answer.
Yeah. Good stuff about Thestrals. Well, once they're tamed, like this lot, you'll never be lost again. Amazing sense of a direction. Just tell them where you want to go.
Assuming
Sorry, wrong person. Assuming they can understand you, of course, said Malfoy loudly, and Pansy Parkinson collapsed into a fit of renewed giggles. Professor Umbridge smiled indulgently at them and then turned to Neville.
you can see Thestrals, Longbottom. Can you?
She said. Neville nodded.
Who did you see die?
No, she said, her tone indifferent. Oh, yeah. My granddad, said Neville.
And what do you think of them?
She said, waving her stubby hand at the horses, who by now had striped a great deal of carcass down to the bone. Said Neville nervously, with a glance at Hagrid. Well,
Okay. Students are too intimidated to admit they are frightened,
muttered Umbridge, making another note on her clipboard.
No,
Said Neville, looking upset.
no, I'm not scared of them. It's quite all right,
Said Umbridge, patting Neville on the shoulder with what she evidently intended to be an understanding smile, though it looked more like a leer to Harry.
Well, Hagrid.
She turned to look up at him again, speaking once more in that loud, slow voice.
I think I've got enough to be getting along with. You will receive,
She mimed, taking something from the air in front of her.
the results of your inspection
She pointed at the clipboard.
in 10 days' time.
She holded up 10 stubby little fingers, then her smile wider and more toad-like than ever before beneath her green hat. She bustled from their midst, leaving Malfoy and Pansy Parkinson in fits of laughter, Hermione actually shaking with fury, and Neville looking confused and upset.
That foul, lying, twisting old gargoyle,
Stormed Hermione half an hour later, as they made their way back up to the castle through the channels they had made earlier in the snow.
You see what she's up to? It's her thing about half-breeds all over again. She's trying to make out Hagrid some kind of dim-witted troll, just because he had a giantess for a mother, and oh, it's not fair. That really wasn't a bad lesson at all. I mean, all right, if it had been Blasted and Scroots again, but Thestrals are fine. In fact, for Hagrid, they're really good.
Umbridge said they're dangerous, said Ron.
Well, it's like Hagrid said, they can look after themselves,
Said Hermione impatiently.
and I suppose a teacher like Grubbly-Plank wouldn't usually show them to us before Newt level, but, well, they are very interesting, aren't they? The way some people can see them and some can't. I wish I could.
Do you? Harry asked her quietly. She looked suddenly horror-struck.
Oh, Harry, I'm sorry. No, of course I don't. That was a really stupid thing to say.
It's okay, he said quickly. Don't worry. I'm surprised so many people could see them, said Ron. 3 in a class. Who is this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Weasley. We were just wondering, said a malicious voice unheard by any of them in the muffling snow. Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyelle were walking along right behind them. Do you reckon if you saw someone snuff it, you'd be able to see the quaffle better? He, Crabbe, and Goyelle roared with laughter as they pushed past on their way to the castle, then broke into a chorus of, "Weasley is our king!" Ron's ears turned scarlet.
Ignore them. Just ignore them,
intoned Hermione, pulling at her wand and performing the charm to produce hot air again, so that she could melt them an easier path through the untouched snow between them and the greenhouses. Oh, man. That's a frustrating little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, what we got here? Suddenly wishing Hagrid still had that dragon from the first book, he could make Umbridge its meal. Yeah, that'd be good. She's a good lesson about how people manipulate and cherry-pick to suit their narrative. That's very true, Jenny. I'm really sad I was late today and missed the reveal of the Thestrals. Good thing it's up on YouTube afterwards. I hate to say, but that was a good joke. It actually was a good joke. I was thinking that's one of his better burns. Usually it's just like, you're dumb, you're this, you've got dead parents. It's not really it's no real joke, but that's a good joke.
Yeah.
It is. So good on you, Malfoy. Keep going. Keep working at it. One day you'll be the kind of bully that can just not only annihilate people but also make them feel dead inside. One day you'll get there, Malfoy. One day. December arrived, bringing with it more snow and a positive avalanche of homework for the fifth years. Ron and Hermione's prefect duties also became more and more onerous as Christmas approached. They were called upon to supervise the decoration of the castle. You try putting up tinsel when Peeves has got the other end and is trying to strangle you with it, said Ron. To watch over first and second years spending their break times inside because of the bitter cold. And the cheeky little snot rags, you know. We definitely weren't that rude when we were in first year, said Ron. Yeah, right.
Everybody
Yeah,
does that
right.
kind of stuff.
I know. I remember when when I went into not even high school. I mean, at university. When I went to university, first year, I was like, "Oh man, I'm an adult. I'm a big boy now," and just felt like that kind of feeling. And then I went back to university a year after I graduated. And then I was like, who are all these sweaty little first years running around?
You children.
Yeah, it's like, every 5 years you look back, it's like, you know nothing, you idiotic John. But now I do. Now I know everything. Look at the premonitions, look at the completion of them. Mark's leaving. To each their own. He's actually going. I don't know where. Oh, just because he's going to use the bathroom.
When you gotta go.
Oh!
When you gotta go, it's toilet time. It's toilet time.
Yes. I forgot all about this fart machine that I have. You're the last to say first. Please share those photos, Lois. First year Voth. Oh, I got photos too. I can show you photos too. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's keep going. Where are we? To keep spending their break times inside because of the bitter cold. We weren't like that when we were in first year, said Ron. And to patrol the corridors in shifts with Argus Filch, who suspected that the holiday spirit might show itself in an outbreak of wizard duels. He's got dung for brains, that one, said Ron furiously. They were so busy that Hermione had even stopped knitting elf hats and was fretting that she was down to her last 3.
All those poor elves I haven't set free yet, having to stay here over Christmas because there aren't enough hats.
Harry, who had not had the heart to tell her that Dobby was taking everything she made, bent lower over his History of Magic essay. In any case, he did not want to think about Christmas. For the first time in his school career, he very much want. There's something wrong with this program. It keeps going back to other. It doesn't really matter. Whatever. He very much wanted to spend the holidays away from Hogwarts, between his Quidditch ban and worry about whether or not Hagrid was going to be put on probation. He felt highly resentful toward the place at the moment. The only thing he really looked forward to were the DA meetings, and they would have to stop over the holidays, or the Umbridge Squelchers, the Squelcher Umbridges, the US meetings, the US meetings. That's what we're going to call it. Umbridge Squelchers. The only thing he really looked forward to were the DA meetings, and they would have to stop over the holidays, as nearly everybody in the DA would be spending the time with their families. Hermione was going skiing with her parents, something that greatly amused Ron, who had never heard of muggles strapping narrow strips of wood onto their feet to slide down mountains. Ron was going home to the Burrow. Harry endured several days of envy before Ron said, in response to Harry asking him how he was going to get home for Christmas, "Well, you're coming too. Didn't I say? Mum wrote me and told me to invite you weeks ago." Oh, that's good.
Thanks for the update, Ron.
Yeah.
Also, I find it hard to believe that, like, witches and wizards aren't also skiing. It's like, why not?
It's pretty fun.
It'd be fun.
But also, I don't know, the amount of things you can do as a wizard. Like strapping a broom between your legs and flying around.
Sure, but that doesn't mean that skiing wouldn't be fun and challenging.
True, I agree.
Like, there's still human beings walking around.
Yeah, they're walking.
They're just gonna be like, oh, people, like, what's the point of skateboarding? It's like, well, you could say that just by being a human. You don't have to be a witch or a wizard to be like, what's the point of skateboarding?
You heard it here. Mark also has a problem with wizards. The whole book sucks! Sometimes things are only fun because they might kill you. Sometimes. Yeah, that's true. Hermione rolled her eyes, but Harry's spirits rose. Sorry, you run out of disk space. What is this? What is this whole thing always? Why is this always happening? I'm so sorry. This is so annoying. This constantly. Okay, there, I fixed it.
Yeah, they probably don't have snowsuits, so they wouldn't be able to wear the appropriate clothing for.
That's the problem. That's the problem. They don't. Oh man, what did Muggles wear? Oh. Come on now. Hermione rolled her eyes. It's so funny. Hermione rolled her eyes, but Harry's spirit soared. The thought of Christmas at the Burrow was truly wonderful, though slightly marred by Harry's guilty feeling that he would not be able to spend the holiday with Sirius. He wondered whether he could possibly persuade Mrs. Weasley to invite his godfather for the festivities. That'd be nice. Even though he doubted whether Dumbledore would permit Sirius to leave Grimmauld Place anyway, he could not help but think Mrs. Weasley might not want him. They were so often at loggerheads. Sirius had not contacted Harry at all since his last appearance in the fire. I just like having Sirius in scenes. I don't know why. He's one of those characters, there's a lot of characters I like doing the voices and the characters of. I like doing Sirius. He's very fun. But I just like when he's in a scene for some reason. He just adds another element of, I don't know what it is, fun, mischievousness. I don't know. I just really like him. He's a great character. Where were we? Okay. Sirius had not contacted Harry at all since his last appearance in the fire. And although Harry knew that with Umbridge on constant watch, it would be unwise to attempt to contact him. He did not like to think of Sirius alone in his mother's old house, perhaps pulling a lonely cracker with Creature. What does pulling a lonely cracker mean?
I don't know. Sounds like a bad innuendo.
Yeah, it sounds kind of sexual. Hey, you want to pull a lonely cracker? Okay. Wait. I'm gonna try to make this work. Here we go.
Hey, you want to pull a lonely cracker?
Be different there.
You can't hear it.
No.
Yeah, I played the music. Harry arrived early in the room of requirement for the last DA meeting before the holidays, and was very glad he had, because when the torches burst into flame, he saw that Dobby had taken it upon himself to decorate the place for Christmas. He could tell the elf had done it, because nobody else would have strung 100 golden baubles from the ceiling, each showing a picture of Harry's face and bearing the legend, have a very Harry Christmas. Oh, come on. Christmas crackers. It's a US thing. It's a UK thing. Oh, okay, gotcha. It's a popper. It opens and there's games and stuff inside. Oh, okay. So now I know what they're talking about then. I just thought, crackers that you eat. Don't make this. Just before it happens, don't make this. The exploding Christmas things. Yeah. Have a very Harry Christmas. Harry had only just managed to get the last of them down before the door creaked open and Luna Lovegood entered, looking as dreamy as usual. "Hello," she said vaguely, looking around at what remained of the decorations. "These are nice. Did you put them up?" "No," said Harry. "It was Dobby the house elf." "Mistletoe," said Luna dreamily, pointing at a large clump of white berries placed almost over Harry's head. "Ooh!" He jumped out from under it. "Good thinking," said Luna very seriously. "It's often infested with nargles." What's nargles? Harry was saved the necessity of asking what nargles are by the arrival of Angelina, Katie, and Alicia. All three of them were breathless and looked very cold. "Well," said Angelina dully, pulling off her cloak and throwing it into the corner, "we finally replaced you." "Replaced me?" said Harry blankly. "You and Fred and George," she said impatiently. "We've got another seeker." "Who?" said Harry quickly. "Ginny Weasley. Ginny Weasley," said Katie. Harry gaped at her. "Yeah, I know," said Angelina, pulling out her wand and flexing her arm. What? She's like, "Yeah, I know." You see that, Harry?
You see the strength that resides in this arm, Harry? But she's pretty good, actually. Nothing on you, of course, she said, throwing a very dirty look. But as we can't have you... Harry bit back the retort he was longing to utter. Did she imagine for a second that he did not regret his expulsion from the team 100 times more than she did? Okay, sorry, just need it's telling me, everything's telling me you're running out of disk space and all that jazz. Okay. I gotta get this in order. Sometimes life's hard, you know? Sometimes life is hard. I think I'd...
You want us to quote you or something?
Yeah, because I'm an influencer, you know? Never in my life do I want to describe myself in that way seriously. I'm a social media influencer. What does it even mean? Nice. Okay, you and George. Oh yeah, they replaced her. Did she imagine for a second that he did not regret his expulsion from a team 100 times more than she did? And what about the beaters? He asked, trying to keep his voice even. Andrew Kirk, said Alicia without enthusiasm, and Jack Sloper. Neither of them are brilliant, but compared to the rest of the idiots who turned up. The arrival of Ron, Hermione, and Neville brought this depressing discussion to an end, and within 5 minutes the room was full enough to prevent Harry seeing Angelina's burning, reproachful looks. Okay, he said, calling them all to order. I thought this evening we should just go over the things we've done so far, because it's the last meeting before the holidays, and there's no point starting anything new right before a 3-week break. We're not doing anything new, said Zacharias Smith in a disgruntled whisper loud enough to carry through the room. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have come. We're really sorry Harry didn't tell you then, said Fred loudly. Several people sniggered. Harry saw Cho laughing and felt the familiar swooping sensation in his stomach, as though he had missed a step going downstairs. We can practice in pairs, said Harry. We'll start with the impediment jinx for 10 minutes, then we can get out the cushions and try stunning again. They all divided up obediently. Harry partnered, Neville as usual. The room was soon full of intermittent cries of impedimenta. People froze for a minute or so, during which their partner would stare aimlessly around the room, watching other pairs at work, then would unfreeze and take their turn at the jinx. Neville had improved beyond all recognition. After a while, when Harry had unfrozen 3 times in a row, he had Neville join Ron and Hermione again, so that he could walk around the room and watch the others. When he passed Cho, she beamed at him. He resisted the temptation to walk past her several more times. After 10 minutes on the impediment jinx, they laid out cushions all over the floor and started practicing stunning again. Space was really too confined to allow them all to work this spell at once. Half the group observed the others for a while, then swapped over. I wanted to turn the page, and I was trying to push a button to turn the page. I was like, where's this button? Harry felt himself positively swelling with pride as he watched them all. True, Neville did stun Padma Patil rather than Dean, at whom he had been aiming, but it was a much closer miss than usual, and everybody else had made enormous progress. Okay, so this is another thing. You know, we talked about the strength of your spells. I think probably a book or so ago. It's like how are some people more stronger than others, and how people's spells work better than others. Yeah. And it was something about their will, not something like their will or their...
It's a combination of will and practice. Yeah.
Yeah, will and practice. So, yeah. But now I'm wondering... Technique. Yeah. But now I'm wondering, how does aiming work? Right? You're pointing it, you have strong enough will or whatever to make it happen, but like, how do you aim properly?
You aim with the point of the wand.
I know, but it's not like Neville, after so many times practicing, going like, oh no, you know, he's...
Well, you know, if you want to hit something very accurate, you got to be quite accurate. Like, have you fired like a handgun?
I've fired so many guns in my life.
Right? So you know that like it takes a little bit of skill to figure out which exact spot you're pointing at.
Yeah, I guess.
And like, the farther something is away from you, the easier it is to miss it, right?
Just seems a little different than guns. You know, but you know, maybe there's so much power in a wand that you can't.
Well, it's the
so hard to
wand and the
control them.
magician.
Yeah, the wand and the magician have a close bond, like Hedwig and Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Their mind control, their concentration, confidence. Maybe it's about intent. You know, you need to move your wand. Oh, right. You need to do this. Right, I forgot. You don't just point it, or do you point it and say it?
It depends on the spell. Spells have different wand shapes.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, right. Okay, gotcha. Is there any point questioning magic? What, KJ, if you build up a world with logic in it, you know, each world has their own logic, right?
There's got to be mechanics.
There got to be mechanics to lore and to worlds.
Yeah.
It's a combo of aim, intent, movement, and incantation. And romance. At the end of the hour, Harry called a halt. You're getting really good, he said, beaming around at them. When we get back from the holidays, we can start doing some of the big stuff. Maybe even Patronus's. There was a murmur of excitement. The room began to clear in the usual 2s and 3s. Most people wished Harry a Happy Christmas as they went. Feeling cheerful, he collected up the cushions with Ron and Hermione and stacked them neatly away. Ron and Hermione left before he did. He hung back a little because Cho was still there, and he was hoping to receive a Merry Christmas from her. No, you go on, he heard her say to her friend Marietta, and his heart gave a jolt that seemed to take it into the region of his Adam's apple. He pretended to be straightening the cushion pile. He was quite sure they were alone now, and waited for her to speak. Instead, he heard a hearty sniff. Just because a world is fictional doesn't mean it shouldn't stick to the rules. Yeah. A hearty sniff. He turned and saw Cho standing in the middle of the room, tears pouring down her face. What? He didn't know what to do. She was simply standing there, crying silently. What's up? He said feebly. She shook her head and wiped her eyes on her sleeve. I'm sorry, she said thickly. I suppose it's just learning all this stuff just makes me wonder whether if he'd known it all, he'd still be alive. Harry's heart sank right back past its usual spot and settled somewhere around his navel. He ought to have known. She wanted to talk about Cedric. He did know this stuff, Harry said heavily. He was really good at it. Or he could never have got to the middle of that maze. But if Voldemort really wants to kill you, you don't stand a chance. She hiccuped at the sound of Voldemort's name, but stared at Harry without flinching. You survived when you were just a baby, she said quietly. Yeah, well, said Harry wearily, moving towards the door. I don't know why. Nor does anyone else, so it's nothing to be proud of. Oh, don't go, said Cho, sounding tearful again. I'm really sorry to get all upset like this. I didn't mean to. She hiccuped again. She was very pretty, even when her eyes were red and puffy. Harry felt thoroughly miserable. He'd have been so pleased with just a Merry Christmas. I know it must be horrible for you, she said, mopping her eyes on her sleeve again. Me mentioning Cedric when you saw him die. I suppose you just want to forget about it. Harry did not say anything to this. It was quite true, but he felt heartless saying it. You're a really good teacher, you know, said Cho with a watery smile. I've never been able to stun anything before. Thanks, said Harry awkwardly. They looked at each other for a moment. Harry felt a burning desire to run away from the room, and at the same time a complete inability to move his feet. Mistletoe, said Cho quietly, pointing at the ceiling over his head. Yeah, said Harry. His mouth was very dry. It's probably full of noggles, though. What are noggles? No idea, said Harry. She had moved closer. His brain seemed to have been stunned. You'd have to ask Luna, I mean. Cho made a funny noise halfway between a sob and a laugh. She was nearer to him now. He could have counted the freckles on her nose. I really like you, Harry. He could not think. A tingling sensation was spreading through him, paralyzing his arms, legs, and brain. She was much too close. He could see every tear clinging to her eyelashes. That's the end of this section.
Really?
Yeah. He returned to the common room half an hour later.
What happened in that half hour?
I don't know.
It's so vague.
Has anybody seen Cody lately? Nathan, he was wearing a brown jumper last time we hung out. Where's Cody? Oh man, go Harry, you can do it. Ooh, and then they kissed. I didn't have to say the line because it's so obvious. All right. Well, that was all Cho. Harry didn't do anything. Just stood there like dumbfounded. Yeah, totally. This is all that Cho's got moves. Cho's got confidence and moves. Harry's just like his first kiss. Guys, she helped him clean up. Okay. How much do we have left here of this chapter? I'll finish the chapter. He returned to the common room half an hour later to find Hermione and Ron in the best seats by the fire. Nearly everybody else had gone to bed. Hermione was writing a very long letter. She had already filled half a roll of parchment, which was dangling from the edge of the table. Ron was lying on the hearth rug, trying to finish his transfiguration homework. "What kept you?" he asked, as Harry sank into the armchair next to Hermione's. Harry didn't answer. He was in a state of shock. Half of him wanted to tell Ron and Hermione what had just happened, but the other half wanted to take a secret with him to the grave. "Are you all right, Harry?" Hermione asked, peering at him over the tip of her quill. Harry gave a half-hearted shrug. It's so funny. In truth, he didn't know whether he was all right or not. "What's up?" said Ron, hoisting himself up on his elbow to get a clearer view of Harry. "What's happened?" Harry didn't quite know how to set about telling them and still wasn't sure whether he wanted to. Just as he had decided not to say anything, Hermione took matters out of his hands. "Is it Cho?" she asked in a businesslike way. "Did she corner you after the meeting?" Numbly surprised, Harry nodded. Ron sniggered, breaking off when Hermione caught his eye. What did she want? He asked in a mock casual voice. Harry began rather hoarsely. He cleared his throat and tried again. Did you kiss? Asked Hermione briskly. Ron sat up so fast he sent his ink bottle flying all over the rug. Disregarding this completely, he stared avidly at Harry. "Well?" he demanded. Harry looked from Ron's expression of mingled curiosity and hilarity to Hermione's slight frown and nodded. "Ha!" Ron made a noise. Ron made a triumphant gesture with his fist and went into a raucous peal of laughter that made several timid-looking second years over that made them jump. A reluctant grin spread over Harry's face as he watched Ron rolling around on the hearth rug. Hermione gave Ron a look of deep disgust and returned to her letter. Oh, that's so funny. "Ladies are the givers of joy, Nathan. I definitely had to do everything for my first kiss. Right up there with Netflix. This is such a fun scene to read with friends. Netflix and show." Oh, Carrie, that was a good one. Netflix and show. And then they snogged. Hex flicks and show. Oh man, Netflix and show. That's so funny. "Well?" Ron said finally, looking up at Harry. "How was it?" Harry considered for a moment. "Wet," he said truthfully. Ron made a noise that might have indicated jubilation or disgust. It was hard to tell. Because she was crying. Harry continued heavily. Oh, said Ron, his smile fading slightly. You're that bad at kissing? This is a really funny section. Dunno, said Harry, who hadn't considered this, and immediately felt rather worried. Maybe I am. Of course you're not, said Hermione absently, still scribbling away at her letter. How do you know? Said Ron very sharply. Because Cho spends half her time crying these days, said Hermione vaguely. She does it at mealtimes, in the loos, all over the place. You'd think a bit of kissing would cheer her up, said Ron, grinning. Oh, he was grinning there. Ron, said Hermione in a dignified voice, tipping the point of her quill into her inkpot. You are the most insensitive wart I have ever had the misfortune to meet. What's that supposed to mean? Said Ron indignantly. What sort of person cries while someone's kissing them? Yeah, said Harry slightly desperately. Who does? Hermione looked at the pair of them with an almost pitying expression on her face. Don't you understand how Cho's feeling at the moment? She asked. No, said Harry and Ron together. Hermione sighed and laid down her quill. Well, obviously she's feeling very sad because of Cedric dying. Then I expect she's feeling confused because she liked Cedric and now she likes Harry, and she can't work out who she likes best. Then she'll be feeling guilty, thinking it's an insult to Cedric's memory to be kissing Harry at all. And she'll be worrying about what everyone else might say about her if she starts going out with Harry. And she probably can't work out what her feelings towards Harry are anyway, because he was the one who was with Cedric when Cedric died. So that's all very mixed up and painful. And she's afraid she's going to be thrown off the Ravenclaw Quidditch team because she's been flying so badly. A slightly stunned silence greeted the end of the speech. Then Ron said, One person can't feel all that at once. They'd explode. Just because you've got the emotional range of a teaspoon doesn't mean we all have. Man!
Shots fired.
She just keeps on killing it. Hermione is like got the best digs in all the books. Ron's reaction is such a guy best friend reaction, though. That is so true. That's very true. Here comes one of my favorite lines. I wonder if J.K. helped him writing this scene. It's so realistic from a stupid 15-year-old boy perspective. Yeah. Hermione's doing the heavy lifting here. There is my favorite Hermione line. It's such a good line. Such a good line. You've got the emotional range of a teaspoon. He's just so dumb. Said Hermione hastily, picking up her quill again. She was the one who started it, said Harry. I wouldn't have. She just sort of came at me. And next thing she's crying all over me. I didn't know what to do. Don't blame you, mate, said Ron, looking alarmed at the very thought. You just have to be nice to her, said Hermione, looking up anxiously. You weren't you? Well, said Harry, an unpleasant heat creeping up his face. I sort of patted her on the back a bit. Hermione looked as though she was restraining herself from rolling her eyes with extreme difficulty. Well, I suppose it could have been worse, she said. Are you going to see her again? I'll have to, won't I? Said Harry. We've got DA meetings, haven't we? You know what I mean, said Hermione impatiently. Harry said nothing. Hermione's words opened up a whole new vista of frightening possibilities. He tried to imagine going somewhere with Cho, Hogsmeade perhaps, and being alone with her for hours at a time. Of course, she would have been expecting him to ask her out after what had just happened. The thought made his stomach clench painfully. Oh well, said Hermione distantly, buried in her letter once more. You'll have plenty of opportunity to ask her. What if he doesn't want to ask her? Said Ron, who had been watching Harry with an unusually shrewd expression on his face. A lot of disrespect to teaspoons, though. Those things are handy. Nathan. Don't be silly, said Hermione vaguely. Harry's liked her for ages. Haven't you, Harry? He did not answer. Yes, he had liked Cho for ages, but whenever he had imagined a scene involving the two of them, it had always featured a Cho who was enjoying herself, as opposed to a Cho who was sobbing uncontrollably into his shoulder. Who are you writing the novel to, anyway? Who are you writing the novel to, anyway? Ron asked Hermione, trying to read the bit of parchment now trailing on the floor. Hermione hitched it up out of sight. Victor. Crumb? How many other Victors do we know? Ron said nothing, but looked disgruntled. They sat in silence for another 20 minutes. Ron finished his transfiguration essay with many snorts of impatience and crossing out. Hermione writing steadily to the very end of the parchment, rolling it up carefully and sealing it, and Harry staring into the fire, wishing more than anything that Sirius's head would appear there and give him some advice about girls. But the fire merely crackled lower and lower, until the red-hot embers crumbled into ash, and looking around, Harry saw that they were, yet again, the last ones in the common room. Nathan writes, would you like some personal tutoring in the dark arts with me? I think that's a decent line for Harry to use at this point. Of course, someone cannot help themselves in this chat say, oh, here comes blah, 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 so annoying. Yeah, actually, that's true. Somebody did say, here comes my favorite line. Or something like that. Juan jokes coming on the Not Safe for Work stream. Okay, sorry. Where were we? Where were we? Where were we? Okay, Harry saw that they were yet again the last ones in the common room. Well, night, said Hermione, yawning widely as she set off up the girls' staircase. What has she seen, Crumb? Ron demanded as he and Harry climbed the boys' stairs. Well, said Harry, considering the matter, suppose he's older, isn't he? And he's an international Quidditch player. Yeah, but apart from that, said Ron, sounding aggravated. I mean, he's a grouchy guy, isn't he? Bit grouchy, yeah, said Harry, whose thoughts were still on show. They pulled off their robes and kissed. They pulled off their robes and put on pajamas in silence. Dean, Seamus, and Neville were already asleep. Harry put his glasses on his bedside table and got into bed, but did not pull the hangings closed around his four-poster. Indeed, he stared at the patch of starry sky visible through the window next to Neville's bed. If he had known, this time last night, that in 24 hours' time, he would have kissed Cho Chang. Night, grunted Ron from somewhere to his right. Night, said Harry. Maybe next time. If there was a next time, she'd be a bit happier. He ought to have asked her out. She had probably been expecting it, and was now really angry with him. Or was she lying in bed, still crying about Cedric? He did not know what to think. Hermione's explanation had made it all seem more complicated, rather than easier to understand. That's what they should teach us here, he thought, turning over onto his side. How girls' brains work. Be more useful than divination, anyway. Neville snuffled in his sleep.
You probably have about the same amount of success, Harry.
Probably. Neville snuffled in his sleep, and Al hooted somewhere out in the night. Anybody awake yet? Ooh. It's nighttime for owls. Daytime for owls.
The daytime of the night.
Ooh, you guys want to go party? Harry dreamed he was back in the DA room. Cho was accusing him of luring... Oh, dream time. Cho was accusing him of luring her there under false pretenses. He said he had promised her 150 chocolate frog cards if she showed up. Harry protested. Cho shouted, "Cedric gave me loads of chocolate frog cards, look!" And she pulled out fistfuls of cards from inside her robes and threw them into the air. Then she turned into Hermione, who said, You did promise her, you know, Harry. I think you'd better give her something else instead. How about your firebolt? And Harry was protesting that he could not give Cho his firebolt because Umbridge had it. And anyway, the whole thing was ridiculous. He'd only come to the DA room to put up some Christmas baubles shaped like Dobby's head. The dream changed. His body felt smooth, powerful. Oh, and flexible. He was gliding between shining metal bars across dark, cold stone. He was flat against the floor, sliding along on his belly. It was dark, yet he could see objects around him shimmering in strange, vibrant colors. He was turning his head. At first glance, the corridor was empty, but no. A man was sitting on the floor ahead, his chin drooped onto his chest. A man was, his chin drooping onto his chest, his outline gleaming in the dark. Harry put out his tongue. He tasted the man's scent on the air. He was alive but drowsy, sitting in front of a door at the end of the corridor. Harry longed to bite the man, but he must master the impulse. He had more important work to do. Harry longed to bite the man?
Yeah.
Why?
You don't realize that he's a snake right now?
Oh, no, I didn't realize this. I was like, okay, it's a weird dream. It didn't say that he was a snake.
I mean, I feel like it gave enough clues. I don't feel like I'm spoiling it for you.
His body felt smooth, powerful, and flexible. I was like,
And
yeah.
sticking out his tongue to smell.
I didn't realize
He
this.
thought he was like sliding on the ground.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you got weird dreams sometimes. And then he was like, bite the man? Why? Okay, Harry longed to bite the man, but he must master the impulse. He had more important work to do. I just feel like there should be a Harry snake song. I'm a snake, snake, I'm a snake. But the man was stirring. A silver cloak fell from his legs as he jumped to his feet, and Harry saw his vibrant, blurred outline towering above him, saw a wand withdrawn from a belt. He had no choice. He reared high from the floor and struck once, twice, 3 times, plunging his fangs deeply into the man's flesh, feeling his ribs splinter beneath his jaws, feeling the warm gush of blood. The man was yelling in pain. Then he fell asleep. He slumped backwards against the wall. Blood was splattering onto the floor. His forehead hurt terribly. It was aching, fit to burst. Harry! Harry! He opened his eyes. Every inch of his body was covered in icy sweat. His bed covers were twisted all around him like a straitjacket. He felt as though a white-hot poker were being applied to his forehead. Harry! Ron was standing over him, looking extremely frightened. There were more figures at the foot of Harry's bed. He clutched his head in his hands. The pain was blinding him. He rolled right over and vomited over the edge of the mattress. He's really ill, said a scared voice. Should we call someone? Harry! Harry! He had to tell Ron. It was very important that he tell him. Taking great gulps of air, Harry pushed himself up in bed, willing himself not to throw up, the pain half blinding him. Your dad, he panted, his chest heaving. Your dad's been attacked. What? Said Ron uncomprehendingly. Your dad, he's been bitten. It's serious, there was blood everywhere. I'm going for help, said the same scared voice, and Harry heard footsteps running out of the dormitory. Harry, mate, said Ron uncertainly. You were just dreaming. No, said Harry furiously. It was crucial that Ron understand. It wasn't a dream, not an ordinary dream. I was there. I saw it. I did it. He could hear Seamus and Dean muttering, but did not care. The pain in his forehead was subsiding slightly, though he was still sweating and shivering feverishly. He retched again, and Ron leapt backwards out of the way. Harry, you're not well, he said shakily. Neville's gone for help. I'm fine, Harry choked, wiping his mouth on his pajamas and shaking uncontrollably. There's nothing wrong with me. It's your dad you've got to worry about. We need to find out where he is. He's bleeding like mad. It was a huge snake. He tried to get out of bed, but Ron pushed him back into it. Dean and Seamus were still whispering somewhere nearby. Whether 1 minute passed or 10, Harry did not know. He simply sat there shaking, feeling the pain recede very slowly from his scar. Then there were hurried footsteps coming up from the stairs, and he heard Neville's voice again. "Over here, Professor!" Professor McGonagall came hurrying into the dormitory in her tartan dress gown. Her glasses perched lopsidedly on the bridge of her bony nose. "What is it, Potter? Where does it hurt?" He had never been so pleased to see her. It was a member of the Order of the Phoenix he needed now, not someone fussing over him and prescribing useless potions. "It's Ron's dad," he said, sitting up again. "He's been attacked by a snake, and it's serious. I saw it happen." "What do you mean? You saw it happen?" said Professor McGonagall, her dark eyebrows contracting. "I don't know. I was asleep, and then I was there." You mean you dreamed this?" "No," said Harry angrily. Would none of them understand? "I was having a dream at first about something completely different, something stupid. And then this interrupted it. It was real. I didn't imagine it. Mr. Weasley was asleep on the floor, and he was attacked by a gigantic snake. There was a load of blood. He collapsed. Someone's got to find out where he is." Professor McGonagall was gazing at him through her lopsided spectacles, as though horrified at what she was seeing. "I'm not lying, and I'm not mad," Harry told her, his voice raising to a shout. "I tell you, I saw it happen." "I believe you, Potter," said Professor McGonagall curtly. "Put on your dressing gown. We're going to see the headmaster." End of chapter.
Wow.
Whoa!
This will be the first time that he's seen Dumbledore since.
And talking to him, probably.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's been a long time. I was thinking that Dumbledore hasn't been in the book. Okay, that's where we're ending. Any questions or anything you want to say? Write it down. Man, crazy. Okay, so that bond between him and Voldemort as the snake at the same time. I'm guessing that the snake is just him. Maybe he took up a fingernail and threw it to the side and was like, now it's a snake. Scale. the snake is actually, all the scales are just a bunch of fingernails.
You gonna premonish that?
It's not even a premonition, because it's not about the future, it's something that already happened.
But you don't know if it's true.
Oh, it's true.
So it sounds like a premonition.
It's a pastonition. Okay, and that whole bit was really fun with Cho's kiss, and then him talking to Ron and Hermione afterwards. That was tons of fun. Mark is a stealer of joy.
It's not like I knew. I just figured it out.
Yeah, totally. I totally didn't know he's a snake at this point, because I didn't know Snake Anatomy as a 15-year-old reading this. He's been watching Snape too long. Seamus is probably like, see, I told you he's out of his mind. 0 to 100 real quick. Cliffhanger, we need some premonitions after that. I don't know about what, though. What, Lois? Pastonition. Voldemort can remove a fingernail and turn into a snake. It's a pastonition. Okay. That was fun.
Do you have any premonitions after this part?
Well, I don't know what there's a premonition about, other than that Voldemort attacked Mr. Weasley. Like, what would I be premonitioning about? Right? There's nothing really to ponder about it. Really?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, he just attacked him. He was like, let's get this idiot. And he goes and attacks him.
I feel like he's a little bit more like Voldemort. I feel like he's a little bit more like decidey than that. It's like, let's just go get this guy. There's got to have been some particular reason. That's what I think.
Why did he? Why?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Well,
Maybe he just needs to kill people.
he has a desire, like a vampire. He has to attack every once in a while.
Yeah, for his power.
Yeah. Jenny Cope, how will Dumbledore react to Harry's dream? I feel like maybe that's a leading question. Feels like a leading question to me, because it...
I don't think so.
No? He will be... Oh, damn, that's too bad. No, he'll just say like, "Let's go check on Mr. Weasley."
You know, that Dumbledore, he's always saying, "Oh damn."
Will yeah.
Oh, damn. we finna get out of here.
Will you be editing out the sex scenes as the teenagers grow up, or still reading them live? I was already thinking about, next books, and if Game of Thrones was in consideration, I was like, oh man, there's so many like detailed sex scenes in there. I already know that. It was just like detailed everything. I was like, probably not. Do you think this attack was lethal? No, I don't think so. I don't think the attack was lethal. Because with movies, with books, with everything else, big characters have to have big moments before they die.
Did you bite Mr. Weasley?
Where do you think Mr. Weasley is? Okay, what did it describe? What did it say?
Yeah, a bunch of plays, yeah.
His body was smooth. He's gliding between shining metal bars across dark, cold stone. Metal bars and cold stone.
Like a prison.
He was flat. He's in Azkaban. Maybe he's in Azkaban.
Why would he be in Azkaban?
It's time for John's premonition. At the Minister of Magic, they put him in jail, and then Dumbledore is taking advantage of it to kill somebody who's on their side, and obviously has power. So he did.
Dumbledore's taking advantage of it?
Sorry, so Voldemort is taking advantage of it. So they put him in jail for he did something he wasn't allowed to do, probably protecting Harry in some way. He was protecting Harry in some way, doing something he wasn't allowed to. That's why they put him in jail, and they just haven't found out about it yet here at the school. Don't bite Harry, hit him in the head bad, Harry. He's obviously in the bathroom, toilet time all the time there. Question for Mark. How much of this is ringing a bell from the movie?
0.
Nothing. Mark's faces is me when John guesses anything. Oh, so you have a beard, Carla? Nice, John. Nice diss. Nice, John. You did it. You dissed so hard. Premonition. Minister of Magic put Mr. Weasley in jail for protecting Harry. Now Voldemort is taking advantage of that. John Voth, July 2nd. If you weren't in the theater community, Lois, I feel like you'd be like a lawyer or something. You're just really good at, here's the facts. Let's record it. Okay, everybody. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. I'm excited for tomorrow when we actually get to have a scene with Dumbledore. It's been too long. But we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow's the last reading of the week. It'll be at 6 p.m. again.
I may not be here.
Mark may not be here. I hope you all have a good evening. You are loved, you have value, you have meaning. And don't forget to hug somebody. I don't know why I said that.
Do you need a hug, John?
Yeah, come here, Mark. Come here, Mark. Y'all are getting a Mark and John hug. There we go. So good. It's so good, man. Okay. See y'all later. Bye.